This is the Ramana Maharshi Satsang, a time to listen, reflect, and deeply meditate. Know yourself and be always free and at peace. Welcome. I'm Richard Clarke. I'm not a guru or a teacher. Ramana's teaching is deep, and so I want to share it. I'll read and comment on the Ashtavakra Gita, chapter 15, verses 13 through 16. In these verses, Ashtavakra speaks of knowledge of the self. Self-knowledge is of the highest importance. In you who are one, immaculate, still awareness, from where can birth, action, or a separate person arise? Whatever you perceive is you and you alone. How can bracelets, armlets, and anklets be other than the gold they're made of? Leave behind such distinctions as I am he, the self, and I am not this. Consider everything self. Be desireless. Be happy. Your ignorance alone creates the universe. In reality, one alone exists. There is no person or God other than you. Now, let's break down these verses from the Ashtavakra Gita, chapter 15, verse 13. And you who are one, immaculate, still awareness, from where can birth, action, or a separate person arise? This verse reveals that true awareness is beyond the reach of birth, action, or individuality. When you know yourself as pure, undivided awareness, you recognize that the qualities and events of the external world don't alter your essence. This perception of non-duality, where there is no separate person or self, acts or is born, encourages a deep inner stillness and clarity. The verse has profound implications for anyone exploring the essence of their identity. In your spiritual practice, it invites you to reflect on the illusory nature of individuality, the idea that you are a separate entity involved in constant actions and subject to birth and death. When you contemplate yourself as immaculate, still awareness, you open to the reality that your true nature is beyond these transient changes. This realization can inspire a profound relaxation of personal struggles and goals as you see them as temporary waves on the surface of awareness. Knowing this can lead to a deep, abiding peace as the worries and pressures that come from identifying a separate person dissolve. 15.14. Whatever you perceive is you and you alone. How can bracelets, armlets, and anklets be other than the gold they are made of? This verse illustrates that everything perceived is an expression of the self, similar to how jewelry is simply different forms of gold. Just as the essence of bracelets, armlets, and anklets is the same material, your true nature permeates everything. This vision eliminates the idea of separation and invites you to see all as the self. Seeing everything as an expression of yourself can be a life-changing insight. This verse encourages you to look beyond superficial appearances and recognize the essence beneath all forms as one unified reality, just as the same gold forms all jewelry. By adopting this view, you can foster a more compassionate and inclusive way of relating to others and to the world. It enables you to see beyond differences and appreciate the underlying unity of all being and objects, reducing feelings of isolation or competition. In practice, this perception can transform ordinary interactions, allowing you to feel at home in the world, since everything you encounter is a relation of the self, a reflection of the self. Chapter 15, verse 15. Leave behind such distinctions as I am he, the self, I am not this. Consider everything self. Be desireless. Be happy. Here, Ashtavakra advises you to release all forms of duality, even distinctions like I am the self versus I am not this. By fully embracing the self in all things, you go beyond mental concepts of separation and identity. This verse is called to go beyond even identifying as the self. It's a radical invitation to transcend all concepts of self-definition. By dropping all labels and distinctions, even spiritual labels like I am the self, you enter a state of pure being that is naturally desireless and content. Desire arises from feeling incomplete or separate. So when you recognize everything as the self, the need for fulfillment through external things fades away. This detachment brings a happiness that isn't based on circumstances, but instead arises from a complete, unconditioned acceptance of what is. Embracing this approach helps you live with inner joy and equanimity, undisturbed by life's ups and downs. 15:16. Your ignorance alone creates the universe. In reality, one alone exists. There is no person or God other than you. This verse expresses that the apparent world, with all its divisions, is born of ignorance, all mental concepts. In truth, only one exists, with no separate beings or external gods. This realization dissolves the dualistic view of self and others, returning you to the recognition that all is the self. This verse invites you to question the very foundations of your perceptions of reality. When it says your ignorance alone creates the universe, it highlights how your mind, with its assumptions and labels, creates a world of separate things and beings. In truth, the self is the only reality, and recognizing this strips away layers of illusion, letting you see that all is unified. When you know there is no other, the need for competition, conflict, or the search for validation from others disappears. This understanding allows you to live from a place of wholeness and completeness, in harmony with all things, seeing them not as outside yourself, but as expressions of the same reality. Embracing this unity brings profound liberation, as you no longer feel confined by limitations opposed by the mind's perceptions. The verses from the Ashtavakra Gita guide you to realize that all distinctions and perceptions arise from the self, and only the self exists. By embracing this unity and releasing desires, you discover a profound inner peace and freedom beyond individual identity. So know yourself and be always free and at peace. And now we have a video from Nome, Peace of the Self. It says free all the while.
Bhagavan says that we imagine we are bound and make efforts to become free, though all the while we are free. If we are bound, then it is only natural to make efforts to become liberated from that bondage. If we suffer, we make efforts to attain happiness. Yet if the bondage is merely imagined, what kind of effort then is to be applied? It is only that of knowledge which puts an end to the imagination. The cause of the illusory or imaginary bondage is simply misidentification, ignorance, not knowing oneself as the self really is. So then, if we deeply and consistently inquire Who am I? The illusory nature of bondage becomes apparent when ignorance is perceived as ignorance. It is no longer ours. Of all the forms of ignorance, that is, of all the misidentifications, the primal one is the assumption of individuality, the notion of I, which is integral to every other definition one can imagine for oneself. So then, who am I? If you are an individual, and an embodied one at that, then you are defined, and you are confined by what you are defined by. Are you the body? Are you an I? The conception of embodiment comes and goes, but your existence does not come and go. How then can your existence be confounded with the body? Similarly, the supposition of existing as an individual, the idea of I, rises and sets, but your existence does not rise and set. How then can I be an I? Bodiless, eyeless, transcendent of the senses and of the mind. Your real nature, Satchidananda, being consciousness bliss, shines. It is innately egoless. It is utterly undifferentiated. Who then imagines illusion? If the I is imaginary, and therefore all bondage is imaginary, can I imagine itself? By such profound inquiry, realizing your nature to be the knowledge, the consciousness itself, find out the impossible character of ignorance. The Maharshi declares that Maya, or illusion, is that which is not. One's bondage is never real. Not a drop of it is real. And what is real is always and perfectly full, immutably so. So, if bondage appears, make effort to realize inwardly the knowledge of the self. Upon the realization of such knowledge, you see that in the absence of a bound individual, the bondage was never real. There is neither the illusion nor the one who experiences it. Just one self, which is Brahman, alone exists. It is that which has been free all the while. The very being of the self is the knowledge of the self. If for you it seems otherwise, find out for whom is it otherwise. If illusion appears in the form of I, the body, the world, find out for whom it appears. The illusion, being unreal, will vanish. The real, whichever exists, will alone remain. And that is yourself, the Supreme Consciousness.
And now we will take a few minutes and inquire. You exist, and you know that you exist. Notice that you exist, and you know that you exist. And inquire, investigate within yourself. What would it mean to let go of my sense of individuality and embrace myself as one? How can I perceive everything I encounter as an expression of myself? In what ways do I see separations, and how might I see unity instead? How does knowing that only one exists change my perspective on relationships in the world? Who am I? What am I? What is the nature of my existence? What actually exists? All right. And now let's close with that chant. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Peace,
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 peace.
peace.
Those were the perfect verses for a day like today.
Yes. Somehow hearing Ashtavakra talk about no difference, no separation makes me feel differently. I woke up this morning feeling a lot of difference and separation.
Yeah, the as a result of the election.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Well, I heard it about 4 in the morning, and I told Delana we went to confirm that, and it was true, and people feeling a little sad and a little down, and we have to bring to the world the peace that we really are,
Mhm.
especially now, especially now.
I heard it about 12:30 when Carol came to bed last night. and I didn't sleep very well after that.
Yeah, yeah. I went back to sleep and fortunately slept some, and then spoke to my brother. My brother is just so politically oriented, and he's been watching this for months.
Uh-huh.
And for him, he said this is 1,000 times worse than being severely depressed.
I agree with that. And I've been equally glued to it for 9 years. And I kept thinking year after year, oh, it's going to be over. There's going to be justice, but no justice yet.
No,
So we're going to have to find the justice within where there's no difference. The lack of justice is, or the feeling of the lack of justice is a feeling of enormous difference.
right. And today, Elon Musk made $12 billion as a result of what happened with the stock market.
Ah, okay.
And I was trying to share that just be glad you're not in his mind. You know,
Oh,
there's a
yes.
$12 billion and being in that mind wouldn't be worth it.
Hmm. Somehow I don't think he's happy.
No, definitely not. I don't. I really don't think that most of those people that have a lot of financial wealth are really very happy people.
Hmm. Well, there's most of the people who have the wealth, and the concern is keeping the wealth and getting more wealth. Let's have more.
That's it. Like Rockefeller, they asked him how much is enough. He said just a little bit more.
Just a little bit more.
Yeah,
Anyway, how much is enough? We already have enough. We are enough. All we have to do is to be able to feel and know what's already there.
right, right. And that's why
Okay.
these satsangs are such a blessing.
Yes. Anyway, see you next week.
Okay. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Namaste.
Richard.
Thank you. Namaste.